Hello guys and girls listening to this is Rija, and today we're gonna check our entitled parents. But before we check the posts, I just want to thank Nightingale for this beautiful picture. Thanks a lot Nightingale, it is amazing. And well, you can send your fan art or fanfiction or whatever to the accounts that are appearing on the screen. I'm a little bit more active on Discord, so that will be your best bet if you want to talk with me. So that being said, let's start with the post from our entitled parents. Entitled parent is mad I got a lead in a school play. So picture this, it's the 8th grade, my last year at the school I have gone to for 10 years, pre-K to 8. It's a modest school, so almost everyone knows each other plus parents. EP is a total PTA mom. Is one of those people who spends way more time than necessary setting up fundraisers and visiting her kids in class. Not that that is super important to the story, but I felt I should set the scene for you all. Our school has a middle school play every year. This year was Snow White, and I usually don't audition cause stage fright. However, all of my friends were, so I supposed I will tag along. I read a couple of parts just for and giggles. Lo and behold, the casting list comes out and I'm cast as the evil queen, which is pretty dope, especially considering the role with the second most lines in the play. I worked hard for about 2 months practicing and learning my lines and blocking, and even learned to stay in character when in a scene with my friends. Hard to do for me. It gets near the performances and we are having our last few rehearsals before dress rehearsal. There are now some parents of kids in the play, including EP, watching us and helping set up stuff. While I'm on stage, I hear EP mutter, "EP's daughter should have been the evil queen." I don't know why she wasn't. I don't think much of it. EP's kid is cast as one of the dwarves and she seems happy with her role, so I don't worry that I'm breaking any hearts. The day performances with the classes of kids go fine, but then comes the night performance, during one of my few moments where I can look out on the crowd, now consisting only of families of kids in the play. I see that EP is sitting right in the front row, staring at me like she was already rearing for my eventual death at the end of the play. I get a little spooked, but everything goes fine. The performance goes off without a hitch, until the curtain call. I come out for the curtain call and the crowd is applauding as they have before, and I even hear a few whoops from my excited family in the front row. But my ears determine one other thing, a loud boo coming from the front row, on the opposite side of where my family is. I look over and see none other than EP probably booing me as loud as she possibly can, every once in a while looking behind her as if imploring the crowd to join her. It feels like a bad Parks and Rec bit. I'm honestly not sure if anyone else caught it, but I just found it entertaining to no end that this woman felt the need to boo a child because of a casting I had no control over. Wow, this is just shameful or something. It's maybe like the parent was projecting or something. Maybe the parent's dream was to become a star or something, because according to our narrator, the kid was fine with the role he or she had. So the only person that was quote unquote angry was the EP, so I don't know. EPs and EB steals my cat, calls the police, then pushes me down the stairs. Okay, so I live in a small neighborhood in southern England. I originally came down from Scotland. Me and my stepmother were both sitting in the living room. I was playing the Division 2 private beta and she was on her phone. We had gotten some new neighbors about 2 months ago and they were only trouble. They have 5 kids and were known dealers, and they were violent. A few weeks back there was a stabbing and the 3 people weren't found, so we all decided to keep to ourselves. So I hear a knock at the door and my cat is sat on the steps. I answer the door and I see them, so I say hello and stuff. Then the cheeky little titled brat, EB, scuttled past me and grabbed my cat. My cat doesn't like to be grabbed, so I ask her to put my little Kit Kat down. He is freaking the out, seeing as he never had met this Lucky. So he scratches her because she began to swing him around, calling him a snowball because he's white. I pull him away from her and then entitled mom, EM, slaps me and starts to scream at me for touching her little golden angel. My stepmom comes in and then asks me what was going on. EM wrenched my cat out my arms and then runs into her house, locking the door behind her. She then starts to cry and then calls the police. She calls them saying I her child, I am no nonce, and that I threatened her at gunpoint. Really? So we wait for the police to come and they are armed. I raise my hands and tell them what's going on, and then I hear some clippers. Turns out the sick were shaving my cat in the kitchen where I could see. So I bang on the windows telling them to stop, and then I tell the officer what's going on. The officer knew my dad before he died and he trusts me, so he gets them to open the door. He takes the cat and puts it in his car, and then asks to see any notes of the cat being mine. I pulled out my phone and went to my gallery to show a 7-year-old picture of me, my dad, and Hugo, my cat. The officer gives the cat back to me and tells me and my mom to go indoors. I heard some shouting and I saw 2 more police squad cars arrive. I then saw they were all taken out of the house. I asked if I could share this story with friends, and the officer said it wouldn't be an issue. Yay! So yeah, my cat is extremely stressed and he won't eat or drink. So any help to do with that will be appreciated. Thank you for reading. So in my scale of is it fake or is it true, I would say this is probably a fake text. I don't know, what do you think, guys and girls? Entitled Dad wants to use my assistant's dog to teach his kid, decides to follow and harass me when I say no. That's the name of this story, so let's check it out. I have seen a few posts from other dog handlers over the last couple of days, and I thought I would share something that happened to me not long after I started working with mine. Because apparently this sort of thing is way too common. Just a quick primer, I have adrenal insufficiency and a medical alert dog who I have been working with for a few years now. His name is Jake. He was trained through a charity and we worked really hard to make sure that he's fit to be out in public. He had to pass tests and we are always continuing his training because he gets reassessed regularly to make sure he's still up for the job. He's been trained specifically to alert when my cortisol is too low to prevent an adrenal crisis, which is a really and painful thing to go through. And without immediate emergency steroids and IV fluids, it usually results in coma, heart attack, brain damage, or death. Because you're supposed to make cortisol on demand depending on the stress your body is under. My levels can drop pretty suddenly if I'm in an accident, if I get ill, or sometimes if I'm in a high stress situation. So my dog is with me almost 24/7 to make sure I don't, die. But he's a good boy and others consistently and we haven't had any trouble on his end. I was in the food court at the little mini mall by the station, mostly to avoid the rain while I waited for my bus. I've been out shopping all day and I was exhausted, definitely ready to go home. But I still had another 40 minutes or so before my bus was due, and I didn't want to wait in the cold, so I grabbed something small to eat and drink from the McDonald's there and found somewhere to sit. Jake was sitting quietly at my feet under the table. He's trying to stay out of the way when possible, and most people don't even notice he's there once we are sat down. However, over the noise of the restaurant, suddenly I hear this guy yell out really loudly, "Look, a dog!" And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. At this point we have been out in public plenty of times and I'm used to having these short and awkward interactions with people when they see a dog in a place they are not expecting. It's common for people to stare. Lots of people take pictures. They think they are being sneaky and I don't notice. I do. It's rude and creepy. Please don't take pictures of people without their consent. And some people want to come up and pet him, even though when we are in public he always has his harness on, stating that he's a medical alert dog. Usually I just have to say, sorry, he's working, and that's enough, but some people can't take no for an answer. So this guy, who looks like he's maybe 30 at most, comes stomping over as fast as he can. He looks really excited and he's got a kid in each hand being dragged along behind him. One of the kids, a little girl, she looked like she was like 6 or 7, looked terrified and definitely did not want to be this close. See the dog? He looks just like your teddy, doesn't he? Don't you want to pet him? Look how calm he is, he won't bite, go ahead. Excuse me, please don't pet him, he's working. Don't worry, this will just take a second, go on darling, he's friendly. I'm serious, you can't pet him, he has a job to do and you are distracting him. I'm trying my best to sound strict and serious, but confrontation isn't something I'm great at. And I was already really fatigued from being out all day, so I don't think I'm as intimidating as I try to be. Why are you lying to me? You are just sitting there not doing anything. Just let them pet him. I'm just trying to show my little girls that it's safe. Before I can say anything else, the other girl, the one that didn't look scared, leans under the table and starts patting my dog really roughly on the head. More like little slaps to be honest, and I can see it's making him flinch with each hit, so I reach down and block her hand with mine. Excuse me, do not touch him. You need to leave us alone. I am eye to eye with this kid as I say this, and I guess my levels of intimidation are enough to work on a child at least, because she suddenly looks like she's going to burst into tears and pulls away. The dad does not take kindly to this, and his attitude does a complete 180. Don't you touch my daughter, we don't have to go anywhere. You shouldn't even have a dog in here in the first place. It's unhygienic. If you're going to take your pets with you, then you should at least have the decency to let other people pet it. He is an assistance dog. He's allowed to be here the same way a guide dog is. Are you blind? You are looking right at me. Didn't think so. You can't just call any dog a guide dog and get away with it. It's people like you who give the disabled a bad name. At that point, I'm just kind of internally screaming like, who says that about disabled people? What? Why is this guy yelling in my face over this? And I decide it's not worth it and I should just leave. So I get up from the table, say excuse me, and go to squeeze past them, but he blocks my path. I'm talking to you, don't you walk away from me. Don't put your hands on my daughter again or I will kick the out of you. I didn't hit her, she was hitting my dog. Please move, I need to get through. Or what? What are you going to do? Set your dog on me? Again, I'm like, what? Didn't you just say you wanted to show your kid that it was safe? I am so taken aback and I can feel myself getting more and more drained as this confrontation goes on. Other people have been staring this whole time and I just want to leave. Right on cue, Jake starts alerting, pawing at me and licking to let me know I'm getting low. And I'm kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'm just going to get out of here and take my medicine as soon as possible. So I respond to the alert and then go to force my way past the dad. He tries to go block me again, but this time I get by and start walking away as fast as I can. I decide I'm just going to go wait out at the bus stop because anything is better than this. As I'm walking, I can hear him calling after me and I try my best to ignore it and focus on getting my pills out of my pocket. But at this point the adrenaline has kicked in and I'm getting really shaky and I can tell it's speeding up the effects. It's hard to open the case with one hand holding Jake, so I stop for a second just before I get to the door and pop them out. Grab my water and take the extra 10 milligrams, hoping that will be enough. I feel nauseous but not properly sick. Thankfully, Jake's trying to alert before it gets to a dangerous point, so I have a heads up before the confusion and brain fog sets in. Just as I go to step outside into the bus station, I feel someone grab me by the shoulder and I spin around to see him standing over me. And he starts yelling in my face again about how I hit his kid and how I'm lying about being disabled. That he was going to get the police and have me arrested, have my dog put down, all sorts of horrible shit. At this point, I'm absolutely terrified and I'm looking around trying to lock eyes with anyone else in the building, and thankfully, because I'm by the door, there is a security guard at the help desk who runs over to us in a matter of seconds. The dad looks at him and starts screaming about how I abused his child and that I deserve to be locked up. For a moment, I'm worried that he's going to take the side of the guy. Probably out of panic more than anything else. I doubt most people will side with a screaming grown man over a scared 20-something woman. But he quickly steps in between me and the dad and tells him to back off. The dad initially doesn't want to calm down, but having someone his own size to face off against, he seems to have a moment of clarity as he realizes all eyes are on him. His kids are scared and he's probably going to be in handcuffs if he doesn't stop. So he throws his hands up and starts to walk away. The security guard tells me to wait there and follows him back into the food court, and I go sit down at the bus stop with Jake and wait for him to sort it out. It isn't until they are out of earshot that I actually manage to process what has just happened, and it all hits me at once and I can't stop crying. Thankfully, Jake gives good cuddles and it isn't long until my bus arrives. I'm so upset that when the security guard comes back and asks me if I want to wait for the police so I can give a statement, I say, no thanks, I just want to go home. And I get the bus as soon as it arrives. On the plus side, as soon as I get on, someone stands up to offer me their seat. Nothing quite that bad has happened since, and I think if I could do it over again, I would definitely stay and report it, but I feel really and it's scary to be out in public when you are ill. Even where you are not being harassed by a parent who thinks you owe them your time. As a thanks for your time, here's a picture of Jake with his namesake. This post was totally worth it just for this picture.